Good afternoon, everybody. That's quite dull. Good afternoon. Better. I always say with this talk is, I think the thing that puts people off this talk, that they don't come to this talk, is that the title. Nowadays, if you want people to come to the talk, do a title like this. Now that's a much better title, right? Because it's got all the right words for people to come to a talk, right? It's got microservices, containers, and Docker. Anyway, thank you for showing up. And this talk is, where's my free lunch? There isn't. I think after this you'll probably have free drinks, but it's probably going to be some of the cheapest beer and wine you get, because when there's free parties, they don't give you the good stuff, you know. Got to pay for that. And yeah, some things I shouldn't say out loud. Anyway, let's start. So we live in a world of free, right? And probably in our industry, we're very accustomed to living in a world of free. We are surrounded by many free things, free services. We have free source hosting providers. We have binary hosting providers that are free. You know, name it, Bintray, Maven Central, all of these things are free. We have continuous integration services that are free. We have email that is free. Who pays for their email service here? Right, there you go. You weirdo. We have website hosting that is free. And we even have SSL certificates that are free, which allows phishing attempts now to be secure, which is fantastic, right? And all of these free services follow what's called the upsell business model, which essentially means that you use something for free, you provide a paid version with some more features, and you pray that people buy your better version. Sometimes this works, sometimes it does not. Now, that's a very traditional business model. There is, of course, the unicorn business model. How many of you are familiar with this business model? So the unicorn business model, I can explain it in code because that way you'll all understand, right? You create a product or service and you get users. Then you go through a series of rounds. You try and get VC rounds. You burn cash as fast as possible. If you try and do a valuation, if it is good, you IPO. If not, you just get another round. If you run out of letters, then you can do AB, and AC, and AD, and so on and so forth. And if the shit hits the fan and you end up with nothing, no money, nothing, there's always Hacker News to write a blog post about you setting up a VC, and here's what happened next. Okay? But if you think about it, VCs are absolutely beautifully awesome. In fact, there was a letter by a lady called A Selfish Love Letter to Venture Capitalists, in which she was demonstrating how she saves money every month because of venture capitalists, right? She probably doesn't pay for a whole bunch of services, a whole other bunch of services she's getting at a very discounted rate, and she can basically get anything she wants without having to pay that much money. And if you think about it, VCs are awesome. And nowadays, you don't even have to have a good idea to be backed by VCs, right? I mean, Snapchat, like who would have thought that I can take a picture and don't even have to store it, and there you go, bada bing, I get money for it. You can just come up with ideas. In fact, you can just take existing ideas and adapt them. You know, I can do it's like Airbnb for hamsters. You create something, you say, it's like Airbnb for hamsters. Or we should Uberize cat shaving. You don't even have to come up with an idea yourself. There's a website that you can go to, and you can just randomly generate ideas and website and teams and people for your startup company, and then go and say, there you go, give me some VC funding. So you stroke like never before, or Meet Magazine. Manage your organization's magazine online with our cloud software. It even generates the tagline for you. You don't even need ideas. But I had an idea, because I'm good at that, right? And I said, why don't I come up with Fitbit for dogs? People love dogs. Unfortunately, that already exists. It's called Fitbark. And you can put a Fitbit on a dog, and you can go walking with your dog, and then you can share your dog's accomplishment with other dogs, and they can unlock badges and say, I got the bark badge. And of course, we build all of these systems and this software on free ecosystems, right? We have free libraries that we don't have to pay for. Why should we? It's free. Free frameworks that we don't have to pay for. Why should we? It's free. It doesn't matter that they change versions every 2 days. It's free. And it's all open source. In fact, how many of you are familiar here with JavaScript? And how many of you have to work with JavaScript? My condolences. There is a website, well, I'm sure you all know, are familiar with NPM, which is the Node Package Manager. And the registry hit 1 billion downloads a week and stopped to catch its breath, then carried on growing. Now, you think about that for a moment. There is a registry somewhere out there that has no SLA, that has absolutely no guarantees, and is hitting 1 billion downloads a week. And it is providing packages for people running mission-critical software, right? And nowadays, people don't even grab their dependencies and putting it in their version control so that they can have the same build over and over again. No, they just fetch the latest version every time they do a new build. And I'm sure you're all familiar with what happened at some point where someone basically took 11 lines of JavaScript and deleted the package, because that was actually a package. It did something like a left pad, right? And they got upset at the NPM and they deleted the package. And it took down millions of other packages, because there's millions of packages that depend on it. And systems were breaking, and everyone was bitching at the person saying, how dare you do this? And there was a whole other group of people bitching at NPM saying, how dare did you let them do this? And there was another one saying, what are you bitching about, but how dare you anyway, right? And nobody thought, wait, why was I depending on this anyway to begin with? Where was my SLA? Oh, there wasn't there. And we build all of these systems on trust, right? We just go to Docker and we download all of these containers, and how many of you actually analyze everything that's installed in a Docker container before you build on top of your own Docker container? Right, you do, because that's your thing. But generally, we don't even think about the software that's being installed in Docker. It's just, oh, where is it? It's some registry, let's bring it down. It's awesome, it is free, it is fantastic. The reality, though, of course, is that we all know that we're paying, right? We're paying because that is an OSS project, and we don't know who maintains it, how long it's going to be maintained for, and what happens if they get bored, right? We don't think about this. We say, oh, it's open source. If someone abandons it, I will take over the project. How many open source projects have you taken over? How many times have you moaned and complained that, oh, the latest version of your open source project that I'm using isn't compatible with the latest version of .NET Core, right? How many of you do pull requests? That's pretty good. That's 4 people. That's fantastic. What about the infrastructure? Where's my SLA? I haven't signed any SLAs with packaged repositories. I haven't signed any SLAs with anything that I'm basically maintaining for free. But it's okay. It's fine, right? And that VC-backed service that we're all using, that we're all loving, at some point, they are going to want to cash out. And when they do cash out, they want money, right? They're not nice. I mean, they can be nice people, but they're not doing it for love, right? If not, ask Twitter. And you know, at the end of the day, you think about it, who is responsible for my availability? Who is responsible for everything that I am using and I am deploying to my customers and my customers are relying on? Who is responsible for it? If you're not sure, there is a website. You can go to it and it tells you, okay? Now, you say, but it's okay, things don't happen. More or less, things are going okay. Things aren't shutting down. In fact, there's like daily 100 companies in Silicon Valley that are shutting down. Some of them we hear of, some of them we don't. RethinkDB was shut down. Well, it was brought up again by someone else. 35 million in 3 rounds. I used to use this. It was the most awesome thing in the world. It was an Android start menu thing. It was called Everything Me, and it was revolving everything around me. For narcissists, it was fantastic. And it had 3 rounds, $35 million in funding, 15 million users, and it shut down. Why? Well, they didn't really think of a business model, right? But truly, if you think about the majority of the services that you're using today, the majority of systems that you're using today, probably many of them don't have a business model. And if they do, some of them aren't working very well, right? Because someone at some point said, get a lot of users and you'll get a lot of revenue. And then they realized that's not actually entirely true. And of course, this isn't only about free software and free services. We also have a lot of free information at our disposal. So this is a Spanish newspaper. It's called El Mundo. It's the only one that thinks it's not left-wing and it's not right-wing, but it wants to be left-wing and sometimes it's right-wing. It's in Spain. Now, this is what I usually see when I go to El Mundo, okay? This is what my mother would see if she went to El Mundo, right? Because she kind of doesn't have an ad blocker, right? I've got a local newspaper, which is this, right? Well, that's El Mundo as well. That's like when they have a promotion. Where is the news? It's right behind that blocker thing, okay? So, you know, you say, that's not a big deal. I use an ad blocker. That's my local newspaper. Like, I don't even know that that's a newspaper until I get rid of everything. Now, how many of you use an ad blocker? It's fantastic, right? It's the best thing. How many of you pay for news? Okay, one person. So now when you go to a site, you get like quote of the day, and then it gives you a delay, and it says, oh, you've got an ad blocker. You go to Bloomberg, and it says, oh, we've detected that you have an ad blocker. Why don't you please unblock this? And you're like, this is ridiculous. This is disgusting. You know what I will do? I will go and open the Chrome debugger, and I will find that div, and I will disable that div, and I will show these bastards that I know best, and I will read their information, right? And you're like, how long did that take you? Well, it took me an hour and a half first time, but it was so satisfying, right? And the Telegraph is a British newspaper. You know, if you read 5 articles, which you really can't read more than 5 articles on the Telegraph, it like says, okay, you've had enough, so what do? You don't pay, you go in incognito mode. You say, there you go, now I get my other 5 articles. And it's fantastic. Then there's a more subtle approach. It's kind of like The Guardian that says, hey, you know, it's us over here. We're letting you read this, and we're really, really nice people. And for what you could pay us for a month is probably what you're paying for a double macchiato latte. And it's just €5. And you're like, yeah, but that's a double latte macchiato, you know? You imagine if I pay this, that's 1 less a month. Yeah, but you drink that in 10 minutes and you could spend 7. No, but it really tastes nice, right? So we end up in this situation where, like, you know, we're just using ad blockers and we're just getting this information and we're thinking everything is okay. In fact, 2 out of 3 young millennials now use an ad blocker. Now, there's a twist that happens here because AdBlock Plus now is selling ads. Now, none of us saw that coming, did we, right? But the reality is that we are praying. We are praying and we are paying. We are paying because we are degrading the quality of information that we are receiving, right? Everyone and their mother is a journalist now, right? It's all about clickbait. And we're blurring the line between news content and marketing. So a lot of sites that you go to, they call it native advertising, right? Which is another form of I've just pushed paid content into a website. Okay? So some places you see it very clearly, like, yep, this is advertising, that's advertising. Some places you don't see it that clearly, right? You see a little kind of like, oh yeah, sponsored features. They don't call it advertising, they don't call it ads, they don't put flash, they just put it like sponsored features. And you're kind of thinking, wait, who's this sponsored by? What is it about? Is it actual factual news or not? What is it that I'm reading? Now, ads are fantastic, right? And there are companies like Facebook says that they will force advertising on ad blocking users. It doesn't matter, right? Because that is their revenue model. That's how they make money. But you say, it doesn't matter because I don't even need this stuff anymore. I don't even need news sites anymore because I live in a world of social media where I get my news from Twitter and other places. Because social media has given us all a voice. We're all reporters. We can all do like videos and pictures and blast that information out without any context, but we can blast it out and we say we know everything firsthand, right? News is essentially crowdsourced. Now, it depends What type of news you get is where you are located, what your walled garden is, right? If you're on Snapchat, you're probably drunk and you don't care anyway. If you're on Twitter, you're getting the news that's relevant to your circle of friends and those that you want to criticize. If you're on Facebook, I'm not on Facebook, but if you were, you would get news from your family and blah, blah, blah. Of course, it's all tailored to who you follow, who you don't follow, what you read, what you don't follow. If you're on Google+, probably the only person, but there's probably something there as well. And so you've all seen advertising and things around, former Facebook workers, we routinely suppressed conservative news. And, Mark Zuckerberg came out and said, that is absolutely false. We do not suppress anything. We do not, there are no people working there suppressing news, right? And then it says, oh no, we allow for a culture to foster and allow people to talk about anything they want, and we're very open and blah, blah, blah. And then Facebook photo of man cradling sick son in shower repeatedly removed by social network. Why? It's pornography, apparently, right? Or breastfeeding removed. Why? It's pornography, apparently. So wait a minute. Who is to decide what is valid and what is not, right? And if you're removing some things, how do I know about the cases that you're not removing? How do I know about what is actually coming into my feed or not coming into my feed? I'm sure you're all aware of this one. Mark Zuckerberg accused of abusing power of Facebook after he deletes name-palmed girl post. Well, it was a girl naked, right? Little girl naked. We can't have the world see that. Do you know why you heard about this? Because some newspaper in Norway made a big deal about it, and they put it back, and they said, we apologize. Right? It was artificial intelligence that did this. And then Facebook apparently fired the trending team and algorithm without humans go crazy. Right? Now, I'm not picking on Facebook. This is just an example. This happens everywhere all the time. And then they introduce these things like timelines and moments. Give you the information that matters the most to you. It's about your needs. Showing what you care about first. Who is deciding what I care about first? You, with these platforms, are succumbing to their walled garden, and we are creating our own walled garden where we are getting the information that we believe matters to us and never seeing opposing facts, never seeing the other side of the story, never seeing the back story, never seeing the context. We don't think about all of that, do we? We don't think when we see a tweet that says, person did something really awful. And what do? We retweet and say, oh my God, did you see this? And then someone else says, this is disgusting. And then the next thing we know, something's blown up and some company has to apologize for something without even understanding the underlying context. We just see what we want to see and we share. And who really is in control? And then, of course, there's all this thing around the fake news, right? The rise of fake news. Now, we know that fake news is fake, or is it really not fake? We don't know if it's fake. But apparently, Google is introducing fact-checking feature intended to help people see whether news is actually true. Now, this is not bad. This is actually good. This can be a good thing. But then again, it goes back to who behind this is deciding what is true and what is wrong. Because even if it is an algorithm, it's being written by someone. And we'll see that that actually is a big problem. And where is our balance of judgment, right? We have this confirmation bias. It is real. When we see some news, even when we want to do a fact check, what do? We tend to go towards what we believe will give us what we want to hear, right? We don't look at a tweet. How many of you, when you see a tweet that says something awful, actually click on it, read through the entire thread, see if there is someone that is saying the opposite or saying that what you're claiming is absolutely false before retweeting, before sharing? Yeah, very few of us. Why? Because we share and we forget. And there is actually papers that says that reducing controversy by connecting opposing views. Yes, if we read opposing views. The problem is that often we do not end up reading opposing views. Why don't we? Because we have information overload. Do you honestly want me, every time I see a tweet, to sit there and analyze everything before I share it with my social network? To say whether it's true or not? It's impossible. I've got a job. But I need to get the news out there so that everyone is aware of the bad things or the good things that are happening, whether it's true or not. I need to get it out there. But don't expect me to contrast it. Now, how many of you are familiar with Orwell? Right? Obviously, you're all familiar with this book, 1984, which he talks about a big brother that, that something's watching you, and there's control and there's censorship. And fortunately, we all know that that was a lie. It's a myth. It's not happening. It hasn't happened. How many of you have heard of Huxley? So Huxley wrote another book, right? And in it, he talked about something different. He talked about a controlled population, right? And the book was called The Brave New World. So he wrote this book in 1932 where he was talking about a controlled population where you would control birth, right? So you would say, oh, I want people that are very smart, and I want people that aren't very smart that will go into another lot. And, genetically modifying human being. Well, we know that's not possible, thankfully. Oh, wait, it is. And then he talked about a world in which there was a lot of amusement. People were constantly amused. They were taking drugs and just constantly, high and having intercourse and just having a lot of fun, right? And not really caring about the big issues in life. Well, we know that's not true, thankfully. And of course, he was also talking about artificial procreation, which we know that's not true, thankfully, also. And this was a book he wrote in 1932, right? And there's another book, which is by Neil Postman, that's called Amusing Ourselves to Death. How many of you have read that, right? Definitely read that book, right? And Neil Postman is talking about the era of television primarily, for the time he wrote this. And in it, this is an extract from the book, which is the only thing I read. He says, what Orwell feared were those who would ban books. What Huxley feared was that there would be no reason to ban a book, for there would be no one who would want to read one. Orwell feared those who would deprive us of information. Huxley feared those who would give us so much information that we would be reduced to passivity and egoism. Oh, yeah. Oh, right. That's true. Orwell feared that the truth would be concealed from us. Huxley feared that the truth would be drowned in a sea of irrelevance. Orwell feared we would become a captive culture. Huxley feared we would become a trivial culture, preoccupied with some equivalent of the feelies, the orgy-porgy, and the centrifugal bumble puppy. In short, Orwell feared that what we hate will ruin us. Huxley feared that what we love will ruin us. This book is about the possibility that Huxwell, not Orley, was right. Unfortunately for us, they were both right. Yes, we're getting the best of all. And we're paying because we're sacrificing our time, right? We've got so much information, we've got so much news, we don't even know what to do anymore. And we're creating an unhealthy environment where trolls are fostering and lives are being destroyed because we have this culture of share and forget, right? I have seen numerous, I'm sure you are all aware of the situation of that lady that was getting on a plane heading to South Africa, and she was in Heathrow Airport, and she tweeted and said, I'm getting on a plane to South Africa, hope I don't catch AIDS, I'm just kidding, I'm white. Now, in any context, that could be taken as sarcasm. It really could be. Who knows whether it was sarcasm or not? She claims it was. But what happened? That lady's life was absolutely, completely destroyed. It was completely destroyed. She was fired, she was targeted, she was doxxed, she was not allowed another job anymore, and she hid away for 2 years on people's sofas until she managed to slowly get her life back together again. And for us, what was it? A retweet, oh my God, and move on. Tomorrow, something else comes along. Right? And we're seeing this over and over again, whether it's in our industry, whether it's not in our industry. We are continuously judging people without properly looking at facts and making decisions and forming opinions without properly looking at all sides and understanding the context. And why? Well, we just don't have time. So if we don't, why share? Because the irrelevant is becoming now relevant. And that is in information, and we've got free services, we've got free information, and we've got free application. Anything you can think of, there's an app for that. What do I eat? There's an app for it. When do I do exercise? And when do I sit on my ass? There's an app for it. When do I do work? And where do I procrastinate? There's an app for it. There's an app for it. There's an app for it that sits in my taskbar, and every 5 minutes, I kid you not, I use it. It says, sit up straight. Because I crouch, sit up straight, right? There's an app for it. Yes? There's actually a device you can buy that you hook into your back, and if it sees you crouch, it gives you electric shock, right? Now, that is awesome, but imagine where that information might end up. Where do I go? And who else is going to be there? There's an app for it. Anything you can think of, there's an app for it. That is Google right scroll on my phone, right? It's OK Google, whatever. I use it. It's awesome. It tells me absolutely everything I need to know for my day, right? It tells me where I am, how do I translate based on the language I'm going to, things that I'm interested in, and please don't judge me, things that I'm not interested in. This is Google Trips. It's awesome, right? I installed it. It said, do you want to connect this to your Google account? I said, yes. Instantly, I had everything, like literally instantly. I had all my past trips dating back 12 years. I had my upcoming trips. I had my ticket information. I had my hotel reservations. I had everything. It's not that it took time to process. It's that it had all of this information processed. This was just a beautiful UI on everything that it already had, right? And all of these other applications have this information. And you wonder with what they're doing with it. And of course, you know your assistant. Like everyone has an assistant, whether it's Google, whatever, right? Your assistant knows you. Now they want to know your family as well, right? We've all got an Amazon Echo. We've got, you know, whether you say, OK, Google, you say, hey, Siri, or say, yo, Alexa. Everyone has an assistant now that does anything. And they know absolutely everything about us, which is fantastic. In fact, Mattel thought this is such a fantastic idea that they wanted to build an Alexa for kids. Yes, because putting an Alexa inside a 10-year-old's room is exactly what we need for the future, right? Runkeeper apparently was secretly tracking you around the clock and sending your data to advertisers. What do I eat? I don't know what it's doing. Facebook is using smartphones to listen to what people say, professor suggests. Is it true? Is it fake? I don't know. They'll say no. Facial recognition will soon end your anonymity, right? There is actually an application in Russia that is built by a couple of Russian folks. In Russia, they've got their own Facebook, which is called VK, Kontaktir. And I've tried it. You go around, you take a picture of someone in the street, and it tells you who that person is, right? What does it do? It contacts VK, looks up the pictures, matches the person, and gives you the information. There's no ill intent in that, but hey, it's there. The technology is there already. You heard about this case, no? That Amazon Echo witnessed a murder, and the police said, we want to talk to your Amazon Echo, right? And it makes you wonder, I just said something at home. Is anybody actually listening to what I said? Now, this is going even further because we've got the Internet of Things. Absolutely everything now is connected. Everything, right? There's a smart tampon because the Internet of every single thing must be stopped. And LG threatens to put Wi-Fi in every appliance it introduces in 2017. Look, read that headline. It threatens. You've seen that picture of, you walk into your kitchen and you've been held ransom by your toaster, your fridge, your telephone, because they're all asking for ransomware in Bitcoins, right? I'm not going to let you open your fridge because, hey. And we're paying, right? Because we're basically sacrificing our privacy. And I say we because I'm doing it myself. We're sacrificing our privacy for convenience. That is it. It is way more convenient for me to say, OK, Google, or OK, Amazon, or OK, what? Where can I get a good beer? Oh, I know where you are. I'll tell you where to go. Blah, 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 blah. Right? And all of these cloud providers, all of these companies, we're all, everyone's saying, you've got artificial intelligence now. It's amazing. And you get all of this power. And just let us process it. Of course, we all know that if we're not paying for the product, we are the product, we're helping shape it. And it's fine, it's a conscious decision. You want to make it. But I often feel like maybe even I'm forgetting that. And we hope that our data will never be used against us, sold, or hacked. That is our hope. That is not the reality, though. Data has been stolen, data can be hacked, data has been sold. And who knows if data is going to be used against us. You're all familiar with the safe harbor, right? There was a thingy between EU and the US that said that, the data of EU citizens should be, can be transferred back and forth, and some person took Facebook to court and safe harbor collapsed, right? And then they came out with another thing called Privacy Shield, which is a self-certifying system, which is absolute nonsense because the governments aren't agreeing on this. I can get my data back and forth everywhere. There's no protection. No protection whatsoever. So who knows what you say now can or cannot be used against you tomorrow. Now, Bruce Nye said that surveillance is the business model of the internet. We build systems that spy on people in exchange for services. Corporations call it marketing. Right? Essentially, that is it. I mean, the web experience today is fantastic. I search for a product on Amazon, I buy it, and then I spend 6 months saying, oh, would you like to buy a fridge? No, I already bought one. Oh, would you like to buy a fridge? No, I already bought one. At this point, you're like, why don't you just all talk to each other so you know I bought that damn fridge and you stop harassing me? And I could, offer me a coffee maker or something instead. But that is our experience. This is like walking into a shop, right, and then walking out, and then the shop person constantly chasing you down the street every day and then calling you, say, you walked into a shop. We used to call them sales car salespeople, right? Now we've got them all over the internet. Now, WhatsApp said that the users are going to receive adverts. When they bought WhatsApp, they never said that. They said, no, we're going to keep everything separate, and it's all going to be okay, and blah, blah, blah. Why? Because ads sell, apparently so. They sell. And then we find out that, well, some of the numbers are overestimated, blah, 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 but who cares? Like, it's fantastic. Since you can't really measure it, you just put this amazing, estimations and say, oh, yeah, you spent $1 and you generated $600,000 in revenue. Like, who's telling me this? The same person that's selling you the ads. Maybe, what if I put $2? Yeah, you're going to generate $1.2 million in revenue. Where is that money? Doesn't matter. Just put $2 in. It's great. So the same people that are selling us ads are providing us with the statistics of how much money we're making based on the ads they're selling us. You kind of think, wait a minute here. Maybe I should get a third-party opinion on this. Now you say, it doesn't matter, I don't care. Like, I don't care if they bombard me with a fridge. Like, I have nothing absolutely to hide. And to respond to that, the only thing that I can say is what Edward Snowden said, that he said, arguing that you don't care about the right to privacy because you have nothing to hide is no different than saying you don't care about freedom of speech because you have nothing to say. That's essentially it. I've got nothing to hide. You don't know if you have anything to hide or not. What you thought was innocent can be used against you. And I'm not talking about legally used against you. I'm talking about that thing you said about your colleague or your boss, or they said about you, or what have you. We all have secrets. They're just different scales of secrets. I asked recently on a Twitter poll, I got like 500 responses, which they say that's enough for accuracy, right? Privacy, no, actually there is an estimation that says over 500, the margin of error is so minimal that it's enough. So don't have time to read privacy policies. Don't understand them. Don't care about privacy. How many of you read privacy policies in detail every time you download an app or use a website or use a service? How many times do you when they say, we've updated our privacy policy, you're like, okay, let me do a diff. Even if you do, there is so many ways to word things that it looks innocent, but it really isn't. One of the companies that does freedom, I'm sure you've heard of this story, where they offered free Wi-Fi in London for a period of a week, and in it they said, under the terms and conditions, you use free Wi-Fi, in exchange you will give us your firstborn. Your firstborn child belongs to us. Everyone accepted it. Only one person called and said, what is this about the kid? Right? Nobody reads privacy policies. Nobody. And with things like GDPR coming into effect, even less people will read privacy policies. Hopefully the intention with that is to fix it. And you say, well, they won't use it against us, they won't sell it. NHS shares medical records of 1.6 million patients with Google as part of data sharing agreement. It's anonymous. I don't care. Okay, it's anonymous, great. It really was anonymous, fine. What happens when it's not anonymous? What happens when the run keepers and the apps that control what you eat and the apps that control how you sit connect to companies that make money, such as insurance companies, and they say, well, actually, you know, your back looks like it's going to go to hell, so we're not going to insure you. There is no way for us to know this. There is no way for us to know this and say, well, we'll sue. No. You can't even sue an insurance company nowadays, even if they blatantly say, we don't like you. They don't have to insure you. The US government starts asking foreign travelers to disclose their social media accounts. Yes, if you've ever been to the US, you fill out, if you're under the visa waiver program, you're under a thingy called the ESTA, right? Which is another way of charging $14 for something that before was free. And under there, now there's like Twitter account, Instagram account, Pinterest account. At least they've taken it up a notch and they ask for GitHub account as well. Like, you're going to look at my source code? Really? Like, you're going to judge whether I can go or not to the US because I do a proper implementation of something? I use JavaScript, but don't hold that against me, right? And you start to wonder, like, it really does question, should I say what I was going to freely say the other day on the internet? Should I? Maybe that might be misinterpreted. Maybe I shouldn't. Even if it's the most innocent thing in the world. This is a reality. China plans to organize its society relies on big data to rate everyone. I'm sure you've all seen that episode of Black Mirror, right? Yeah, which is where everyone was wearing an implant chip and you would run into someone and you would rate them. And then once you dropped below like 2.5, you were dead to society. This isn't that. This is along those lines, right? Roomba, the thing that cleans your room, now wants to map your house and potentially sell that to advertising. I see you don't have a carpet big enough. Would you like a carpet? Right? You need to polish your marble floors. But fortunately, we do have people in power that understand the needs and they'll help us solve these problems, right? As the UK Home Secretary Amber Rudd says, real people don't need end-to-end encryption. So, in summary, and you might be wondering, like, what is my point with this? I have a single, concise point. We are screwed. Right? And the bad news is that this is not an episode of Black Mirror, right? In fact, the author of Black Mirror was one time tweeted, said, that shit's too dark even for me to make an episode. And this is being led by many things, but one of the things that is being led by is this culture of just free. We are in this society in which we are come to expect that everything should be free. And this sense of entitlement that, you know, like, is it free? No. Then why do I care? And we need to start thinking about sustainable models, right? We need to start thinking about sustainable models for our privacy. And I'm not just talking about paying to not give privacy, but thinking about how we can continue to innovate, how we can continue to use and leverage artificial intelligence, how we can continue to use the power of technology, but not sacrifice our privacy when we do it. We need to start thinking about these things. We need to start thinking about it for our well-being, because it can lead us down a dark road, both emotionally and financially. Because as much as we want to duck our head in the sand and say, oh, yeah, well, I saw a GIF of this robot that tipped over and I'm not worried about my future and everything's going to be okay, it's not. right? This is not about scaremongering, but artificial intelligence is real. It is here, and it's happening. And it's not only about jobs. Like, do you remember the story of Foxconn? Foxconn was a company that was in China that was manufacturing parts for, I believe it was iPhone, and there was a lot of suicides, right? What did they do? They addressed the problem in many ways. One of them was to put large nets in the hole in the building where people would jump from, right? That's sad, but that's what they did. Do you know what they've done now? They've replaced the majority of workforce with robots, right? They don't have to worry about the emotion or overworking. And you start to wonder, okay, where did all those people go? Are they the ones designing the robots? Don't think so. But the bigger problem with artificial intelligence is the influence it can have, right? There's a good article that you should read. It's called The Rise of the Weaponized AI Propaganda Machine. There's a new automated propaganda machine driving global politics, how it works, and what it will mean for the future of democracy. And if you think about it, right, if we see a tweet about something in our circle, in our industry, in our area, and we don't even take the time to analyze that, how are we going to be aware of the reality of global politics and who's driving this, and how they're using it or not using it against us? The other day I came across this video, which you can watch, which essentially an AI can take a video of someone like Barack Obama and lip sync it and say a completely different message to what originally it was saying. We might question this, right? We might question this, but many other people won't, right? In fact, I even made the slight mistake the other day. Someone that I kind of respect in the world of privacy, blah, blah, blah. This person tweeted something where they were showing that a certain tweet by a certain person, someone clicked on the like and it stayed, and then another tweet, they clicked on the like, which on a controversial like, and the like went on and it went off, right? And then they went and clicked on the Twitter like on the next message, it stayed. And then they went back and they clicked again on the like of that tweet, and it went on and it went off. And the message was, why are you not letting me show support for XYZ? Why are you, removing the likes on a certain tweet? Why are you doing this? And this person that supposedly is a authority in this area, retweeted this. And I made the immediate mistake of retweeting. And then I said, wait a minute, this can't be the case. And open 2 browser windows, you can simulate this exact behavior, right? Or use your phone and a browser, and you can simulate this exact behavior. It's not even hacking, it's simple. But you put that in front of people that are not tech savvy, and what will they say? Oh my God, look what they're doing, right? And this is really dangerous. And the other issue is that artificial intelligence is biased, and there's studies demonstrating that it is biased. If we as society are biased, we are creating machines that are biased. If we as society are biased, we are giving data that is biased, right? This picture was identifying the gentleman on the left as a criminal and the one on the right as a non-criminal, and in fact, it was the opposite. Because we're feeding data that is already biased, right? We're taking the criminal population now and saying, here you go, there you go. And the machine's like, well, yeah, but based on the criminal population you're feeding me, there you go. Now you imagine systems in place that are going to judge us and, sentence us based on AI biases that we've created ourselves. So you wonder, well, what can I do? Nothing, we're screwed. But what we can do is think that we are not only the consumers here. We are not only playing the role of the consumer, we actually have a possibility because we are also creators of this. And we cannot just brush this off and say, well, given that I can't really do anything about this, I'm not going to give it much more thought. Someone else will come along and solve this problem. Because if we're so active and we care so much about some of the smaller things in life, This is one of them. Because this is really not only our future, but our kids' futures, everyone's future. And as I always say to my kids as well, like, don't put things on Instagram, don't put things on the internet, don't, because you don't know what's going to happen in 10 years. And you don't know what they're going to do with that data in 10 years. And I'll finish off with a quote from Jurassic Park where he says, "Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they never stopped to think if they should." Thank you.